Hey, welcome to the CozyLife tutorial, where I'll be going over the features in this game template on a surface level, but also getting into depth into some things that might be a little bit more complicated. But first, let me just give a quick overview. This template contains everything you need to start creating your own social simulation game set in a cozy forested Nordic town with adorable characters to befriend or play as. With a focus on art assets and core gameplay systems, this template is a perfect starting point for any developer, offering plenty of room for customization and creativity. Alright, let's get into it. This video has been broken up to talk about the three main topics of this project: world building tools, characters, and the interactive gameplay actions. A good place to start would be to talk about how this world is made. On top of using blueprint tools and static meshes, there's a little disclaimer I want to mention that if you look at the editor right now, it's all very flat and traditional Unreal looking, but if I were to play, you'll see that the world has this curvature to it. This curvature is actually applied to every material through a material function. You can find that it's called mf underscore curved world. This is using material well positioned offset logic to curve the world at runtime. You'll notice that in other levels, such as the house interiors, there is no curved shader applied, and everything works sort of as normally expected. One notable thing to keep in mind about this is with this curved world shader, things are curving off screen theoretically. If we were to be playing the game like this and have this camera view, everything above sort of this cliff is out of focus and would by default cull out of existence. With the curved shader, we can see even like the base of the well back there. To stop those things from being culled out, throughout the project in Blueprints, you'll notice that we set the bounce scale to a bounce scale of 50, for example, for most static meshes or blueprint meshes, as well as if there's ever any static mesh instance being just dragged out by itself. I changed the negative bounce extension to about like 1,500. This stops things from clipping out all over the place, which may even happen in extreme cases. If that's the case, you just have to increase your bounce level. The static meshes themselves used in the world are actually quite simple. They use triplanar texturing to like give them sort of unique effects. As you can see, if I drag this cliff up, it sort of tiles over and over. They also are very grid aligned, so using snapping with a value of 50 or 100 would give you some very nice connection points. Another exciting thing is if we go into one of these static meshes, we can vertex paint grass on and off by using the red color channel. Modular walls and floors can be used to compose these interior scenes, and by dragging different materials out, you can change how you want your houses to look. To help build your worlds, there are many blueprint-derived tools that you can use. For example, here is a sand sort of beach tool. It uses a spline-based system. So as we drag off into the spline by holding Alt and clicking, we can see we can create this sort of ocean. We also have this sort of ramp to get back onto the land, which complements the grid system. This also just uses a spline. As a little more advanced version of a spline-based system, we have these telegraph poles. Shout out to Irrigame on YouTube for giving me the inspiration for this one. You can drag these points out to create new telegraph pole spots, and as you raise the height on them, these wires will connect. There are also settings inside the blueprint themselves, which you can use to change cable info, such as the width of each individual cable, or how many solver iterations it has. The waterfall and train bridge blueprints work very similarly, in the sense that if you click one, you have a number on the right here, which you can change the width. Same with the bridge. The train blueprint is one that's a little bit more complicated, but a lot of fun to use. You can set different times for how long the train will take to move across the track. The track itself is generated using a spline, with the option to open and close the loop. This crossing will open and close based off the train's position on the track. When it hits this red arrow, the crossing will close, and when it hits the green one, it will open again. These settings are all adjustable inside the blueprint itself. We also have a reset interval, and the crossing normalized position. If we change that to 0.4, we can see it moves to a 0.4 position on this track, which is normalized from 0 to 1. And just to see how this looks, if we hit play, the train will move along the track, and we know that the opening crossing point was approximately there. Oh, sorry, we moved it to there. So that's when the boom gates will close. As the train gets to about this position, they'll open up again. Something a bit more on the simple side, but still a really nice thing to have, are collision walls, invisible walls as some might call them. You can change them from box to sphere or capsule, and just are invisible when you press play, but the character cannot walk through them. Housing is set up to be modular as well, with the option to change which level you will enter at opening the door. You can also change how these houses look. For example, we could change the base to this more modern looking one. Same with the window. You can also add your own static meshes here and change this house to whatever you want it to look like. As we press play, entering the house will load the character into the house level. Inside these house levels, there is a volume called BP_teleport home, which will return the player, provided that the game instance has been set, to where they came in from. All the furniture and props in the game have been distinguished into 8 parent blueprint actors, each with their own distinguishable features, such as being able to interact to turn on and off a light, open and close an animation, repeat an audio on loop, or turn on a television. All the props in the game derive from those blueprints, and you can drag them out quite easily into your levels. Some include functionality as well. In the overworld, there is a day and night cycle, which can be controlled by just clicking the skybox. We can set the cycle time in minutes, as well as what time the day starts. There's also the option to change the sun intensity and the moon intensity. The weather manager system controls when rain will happen in the game. You can force the rain with this tick box, or pick the min and max frequency when rain will start in seconds. Like many systems in this project, characters have been built in a way that is super easy to expand upon. All characters and clothing share the same skeleton. This makes it super easy to reuse animation, and clothing can be easily attached to the body. It's important to note that character facial animation is done through material curves in the animation itself. This is transferred onto all other characters. Also, characters blinking and mouths yapping during talking all are handled through the blueprint. Something I thought was worth mentioning, if you want to add your own character's eyes and mouths, I recommend pulling one of the original ones out. Just so you know, eyes are selected based off 2 columns, 2 of the vertical ones, and 3 going down, as if there were going to be 5. And then underneath, we have a 2x3 grid of the mouths. If you just sort of like swap these meshes with your own mouths, you'd be able to create your own facial expressions. The player and NPC blueprints are actually quite similar in terms of customization and appearance. So we'll go over the NPC one and just know that these values are also representative in the player blueprint. So going down through this list, let's start at personality, since that's where our custom data comes into play. Straight off the bat, we can give the villager a name. This one is Astrid. Say hi. We can pick a name color. This will appear when talking with the character, kind of as like a backdrop for their name. You can pick their favorite color here if you like, or whatever. Dialogue, we can input different dialogues which get selected at random. This is part of the simple dialogue system, which I'll go over into a bit later. Can wander is just a simple checkbox. This says if the NPC can wander around your map or not. Keep in mind that you need a nav mesh for this to work. Has a 3D mouth. This is something that some of the characters, like wolves and the moose, have. where they do not have a sprite sheet mount, but rather a 3D mouth that uses a blend shape to talk instead of a sprite offset. If they do have this 3D mouth, you just tick this on and the logic will know exactly how to handle it. Has hair. This one is pretty obvious, but if you click it, you can give your character a hairstyle. Tail and ears. For this particular bear, Astrid, she has tails and ears, otherwise she looks quite strange. So we can tick those on. And that's all for our main sort of settings. Below we have some more customization things. The head scale is pretty self-explanatory. There may be instances you want to do this. Human eye color. If our character was human, this is where you could change the eye color. For example, if we can find it here, the color for this character is set to be a more hazel green. And this one is set to be more brown. Clothes. This is a big sort of like array where you can keep adding indexes. And for each one, when you click this list, you'll see every clothing item, which is all neatly listed in blueprint form. So if we were to give, let's say, some camo snow bottom pants, they get applied to the character and will follow the animations perfectly. You should feel free to go nuts with this. And since they all share the same skeleton, it should be really easy to just make new clothes. Just transfer the weights of the main character over. There's also some static items like glasses. You'll notice that these glasses kind of suck in placement. They're built more around the human character, but we have offset controls here to fix up if there's like anything you want to change. Sliding these values does cause a bit of jitter, but inputting them hard-coded is quite fine. Skeletal mesh, this is where we would change sort of like our primary character form. So that we have here the villager bear, but I could change this to villager beaver. You'll notice a lot of things change. For one, she's using the bear body material right now. So let's override this with one of the beaver ones. So if I write beaver, we can see there are 4. Just to note, there are 4 of each individual like variants of each species. But for human, there's a wide array of skin colors to pick from. When it comes to the eye material, they're using the bear one at the moment. Just so you know, there's nothing stopping you from using like any and like mix and matching these. But you may get some strange results down the line. But go nuts. So let's give it this beaver's eyes. And for the mouth, let's go with this one, which looks quite strange actually. That is because I selected the body and not the mouth. Make sure you check the naming as you put these in. The hair mesh, if we kept has hair ticked on, this is where you can select your hair mesh. It shows you every static mesh. There's nothing stopping you from putting the grill on the head. But for the sake of this, we're going to pick some hair. So let's go with some cute star buns. And then the hair color, you have to select from an atlas of the hairs. So what I mean by that is these are just the curves themselves. And as we go through these, you'll be able to change what you like. But if I were to come and click this gradient for daytime, which is what the sky material is using, it'll go back to black. This is because it's not added to the curve atlas. So keep that in mind. Hair scale adjustment. This is just, and below that rotation and position adjustment. It's just some things if you wanted to change how this is sitting. If you had a character with a more like taller head, for example, like a giraffe, or like if it was squished, this is where you can start putting like some sort of like adjustments in. And tail mesh, we have this is sort of the tail. So right now we have the little bear tail. So since we're going with beaver, I can pick this beaver tail. And you'll notice that the material now looks a little better, since again it's using the bear animation. No, sorry, the beaver material for this bear ear. We could always, if we wanted to keep that, we can go back and pick another bear ear material override in here. So now we have Astrid's ear back. There is also some material override data, which I just did with the ears, and it's just the same for the tail. We have some tail animation data to play. Right now, it's trying to play the bear animation. So if I played beaver for this tail, which it probably won't do in here very nicely, but in play mode, we'll have a nice little flappy tail. And it's the same with the ears. You could change which one we're using for depending on which one we're doing. Lastly, I would like to talk about the dialogue system included. This is a very simple kind of system where you can input different, I guess you call them conversations into a character, and they will cycle through randomly. They'll just pick one at random and sort of deliver their lines. So let's go over how we can make one of those. In code dialog, we have this BP underscore dialog. And if we make a child blueprint of this, we can call these, I've been using DLG underscore test dialog. And let's open that up. Class defaults. So on the right here, we have dialog and it says 0 array elements. Let's add like 3. The way this will work is each one of these will be shown one at a time, and it's up to the player to like click and go continue, and it'll show them a new, the next sort of index down. So when we walk up to the player, it'll do index 0. Then when we click again, it'll show index 1, again for index 2, and then click again, and the conversation will end. So let's say for text 1, let's say, hello, text 2. This is a quick test of the dialogue system. But that can be what they say at the end. Also, with these dialogue, we have a little emote section, and this is something that is quite cute. If I write emote here, we can see there's a bunch of these like sort of preset emotes: angry, confused, happy, sad. So for hello, if I go down here and find this one that says wave, this is basically going to be a little animation that the character does on loop while they are doing this line of dialogue. And then we could say for the next one, when it says this is a quick test dialogue system, let's actually leave this one blank. And then when they say fart, let's search for emote again and do sad. So I'm going to compile and save that. And now back in Hazel, where it says dialogue, I'm just going to remove her current dialogue and add one. And let's look for test dialogue. It's at the very bottom. So DLG underscore test dialogue. Since this is the only one, it'll only pick from this one. And now if I come back into this game and play from here, let's talk to Hazel. And she's going to say hello, and she's waving. This is a quick test of the dialogue system. Fart. And that's that. Most of the interaction elements of this project are handled through a blueprint interface. This lets us interact with things such as mushrooms, trees, NPCs, and so on. By default, left click will initiate any interaction, provided that you have nothing in your hands. Some more advanced interactions require you to have a specific tool. For example, the axe can cut trees down. To change tool, use the scroll wheel. You can select from either an axe, shovel, bug catching net, or a fishing rod, or have nothing in your hands. Again, having nothing will allow you to interact with things like NPCs or picking up mushrooms. The shovel will allow you to break rocks after hitting them a number of times, as well as digging up tree stumps. You can also catch bugs. Hold left to do a little sneak with the bug net, and strike when you're ready by letting go. And lastly, there's fishing. Cast your rod into a body of water, and if a fish senses your thing, it'll start splashing. Press left click in that time to withdraw the fish. If you leave it too long and the fish gets away, it'll just swim off and ignore you. Collecting items will eventually, over time, fill up an item counter on the bottom right. This item counter is persistent throughout levels, as it is stored in the game instance. A lot of the information I've given in this video can be found in the documentation level in the game, so just open that up and have a flick through all these different tabs. There's a little description under each sort of category, and hopefully that gives you an idea of what's going on. As a game template, I encourage you to further explore throughout each blueprint and material. There's been substantial effort to document and annotate as much as possible, especially things that might be a little bit confusing or particular to this project. So I hope you can find ease of access and use by analyzing what's going on in here. Thank you for your time watching this video, and if you have any questions, please email us at pepemaroulle@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, consider buying CozyLife. It's on the Fab store right now. Thank you.